Alright, today we're going to go over the best builds for not only leveling, but also PvP inside of Blox Fruits, inside of the first, second, and third sea, so let's get started. Okay, so of course, starting with the first sea, we're going to go over the best fruit that I recommend for this, and it's going to be pretty simple, right? You're going to roll yourself at the Blox Fruit Gacha, you're going to try and get yourself something good, but it's not going to be a diamond fruit. Instead of the diamond fruit, you want it to be a light fruit. Trust me, light is by far the best fruit for the first sea, for both leveling and PvP, to be honest, just because you are able to fly around very quickly to all the different islands, and all of its attacks are pretty much AoE based, which is fantastic. Okay, so for our next thing is going to be the sword for the first sea. Now, the best sword, in my opinion, for the first sea is going to be the Saber Sword. It's pretty easy to get once you get to level 200. It's also completely free, doesn't cost you any sort of money, which is very important in the first sea. And the abilities are very, very good as well. As you can see, they're very cool, and they are way better than most swords in the first sea. Okay, so as for fighting styles in the first sea, fighting styles are pretty important. My personal pick is going to be the electric fighting style. This fighting style not only isn't the most expensive fighting style in the first sea, but it's also just clearly the best. It has the best AoE abilities with the stomp ability, the electric tackle, and the best ability is the electric floor. Super strong for dealing with groups of enemies, and just an overall really good fighting style. Okay, so last but not least is going to be your gun, and I recommend you get the slingshot from the weapon dealer in Middletown. It's only 5,000 and it's like a lot cheaper than the refined slingshot, and you don't actually need to put any stats into this whatsoever. Don't put any stats into gun, because you're only going to be using this to group up enemies, which is why I don't recommend getting the refined version. It's more expensive, money's really important. Okay, so before we move on to the second sea, I'm just going to show you how to group up enemies with a gun. Pretty much all you need to do is just click on them like this, and now that they kind of just all walk to me, I can group them up a lot easier than actually having to, deal with them normally, and it's just a lot nicer when you have enemies that are really spread apart. Hey, if this video is helping you out at all, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm trying to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and your support would be much appreciated. Okay, so now that we're in the second sea, it's time to swap fruits once again. So what do I recommend for the best fruit in the second sea? I highly recommend you get your hands on a Buddha fruit. These things are absolutely incredible and super overpowered for the second sea. Leveling is just fantastic on these things, that you cannot get a better fruit for leveling in the second sea. Okay, so as for swords in the second sea, my personal pick is going to be Rengoku, because it is relatively easy to get comparing it to the True Triple Katana or something, which is like next to impossible to get while you're still in the second sea. Plus, the abilities are really awesome. The Demon Slayer ability is strong, and the Burning Slash is very cool and very strong. It's also great for dealing with multiple enemies, which is always helpful for leveling up. As for fighting styles in the second sea, I'm going to recommend Sharkman Karate. Personally, it's one of my favorite fighting styles in the entire game, and it's also the best fighting style in the game, or at least one of the best fighting styles in the game for the actual Buddha fruit, and you should be using the Buddha fruit. And the reason it's so good is because the M1s actually don't have an ending animation, which makes it really useful for when you're farming NPCs, because you don't ever have to stop clicking, which is great for auto clickers, etc. Okay, so my pick for gun is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be the acid rifle. I really like this weapon because it actually holds aggro a lot longer than the rest of the weapons, because it has a little poison effect. As you can see, I'm doing a little bit of damage over time with the gun, which is really nice for when you're trying to pull enemies together like this, which is cool. It definitely helps quite a lot. Okay, so I shouldn't have to say this again, just you don't need to level up the mastery for this weapon. You're literally only using it for its click ability, and also don't put any stats in the gun. It's completely useless. Don't worry about that. Okay, so now that we're in the third sea, my favorite fruit, and the fruit I recommend to you the most, is of course going to be the Kitsune. Now, this fruit is very difficult to get, as it is currently the rarest fruit in the entire game, so if you can't get your hands on this, just continue to use the Buddha fruit. It is also still a great option. But the Kitsune fruit is really good for leveling up because of its M1s, and it also is just one of the most enjoyable fruits to use in the game, as it's just super fun. Okay, so my choice for sword in the third sea is going to be the Cursed Dual Katana. This thing is really fun to use, and it can dish out a ton of damage and has great mobility as well. It's a super good pick. Okay, so as for fighting style, it's going to be God Human for me. Personally, God Human is just insane. It's super good for landing combos and just absolutely destroying people with incredible amounts of damage and combo potential. It's by far one of the best fighting styles, if not the best fighting style in the game. Super strong, very annoying to get though, I must admit. Okay, so my pick for gun in the 3rd Sea is going to be the Soul Guitar. This thing is an absolute beast, and it actually gives you lifesteal on the X ability, which is why most people use it. It's really strong for PvP, and it is also just good for fighting raid bosses when you're almost dead. So it's a great weapon. Of course though, it is a 3rd Sea weapon, and it is a mythical weapon, so it is really hard to get, so just keep that in mind. Alright guys, that is the best build for every single sea in Blox Fruits. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you guys next time.